There are times in every person's life when we feel like we don't fit in with those around us. There are times when we will make mistakes. After all, we're only human. Before I was baptized, before I had ever even heard of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, before I was even a teenager, I was mixed up in drugs and alcohol and making bad choices. I felt the way that all kids do, invincible. I know it's hard to imagine, but making these and other poor choices eventually got me into some trouble. When I was 14, I got caught stealing with some of my friends at the time, and we were brought into the back room of the store, and we had to wait there until our parents came. One by one, my friends' parents shuffled in, angry, disappointed, and when my mom finally got there, she never once looked at me or spoke to me until we left the store, and even then, her only words were, "Find somewhere to live for the rest of the school year. After that, you're moving to your dad's." Those are heavy words for anybody to hear, especially when you're only 14 years old. One of my friends, a real friend, not one of the ones I was caught with that day, let me move in with her for the last 6 months of the school year. And sure enough, right after my freshman year of high school, I was shipped off to Colorado to live with my dad, his girlfriend, and her 2 daughters. My sophomore year was much like my freshman year of high school, and I was still making poor choices. In one of my classes, a choir class, I met a girl who one day told me that she was Mormon. At 15 years old, that was my first time ever hearing the word, and I heard nothing more about it until the next year. After my sophomore year, I was allowed to move back to my mom's house in California, where I joined an audition choir group in my high school. Choir, at least in my school, was filled to the brim with Mormons. That year, we had a competition in Disneyland, and when we were there, I didn't know who to hang out with, so I ended up hanging out with all of these Mormons. On our plane ride home, one of the girls, who happened to be the bishop's daughter, at that point I had no idea what a bishop was, asked me if I wanted to go to church with her and her family when we got home. For some background, my family is not religious at all, and I absolutely despised going to church. For some reason, I said yes. That Sunday, I went with her, albeit a bit begrudgingly, to church, and then I kept going. And then I started taking the missionary lessons, and then I was baptized. My life was taking a direction that I never thought would happen. I went from being a misfit to being included in the nicest community that I have ever experienced. I no longer felt like I didn't belong. In fact, I felt more involved than I ever had felt in my entire life. June 26th of this year will mark my 5th year of membership in this church. There are always times when we feel like we don't fit in. Even now, I still feel that way sometimes. I have made and continue to make mistakes in my life. Luckily for me, my big mistakes were made when I was young and at a time when the consequences were much lighter than they would have been had I made the same choices as an adult. Our mistakes get us to where we're meant to be. Never regret your mistakes and never forget them. Instead, learn from them. Grow from them. Become who you are meant to be through your mistakes. Never let them hold you back or define you. And most importantly, as Albus Dumbledore has taught us, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light.